Today I'm going to be ranking all of Taika Waititi's movies, and after Thor Love and...
Jesus!
It's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard. Everyone's laughing, by the way, but it's true because everybody's heard it too. Everyone heard it, right? They look at everyone's like, yeah, big piece of dog shit.
But in all seriousness, let's get into it. I actually do not hate Thor Love and Thunder, but I feel like in this Taika Waititi Thor trilogy, this definitely felt like the middle of a trilogy. But I feel like my biggest problem with Thor Love and Thunder is the story is pretty weak. It has a lot of great things that it sets up, like the Gore storyline, or the Jane Foster cancer storyline, or Thor trying to figure out life for the 15,000th time, but none of that goes anywhere. And also, Korg and Valkyrie have no purpose in this movie. I honestly couldn't even remember what they did in this movie, except that Korg was just cracking jokes and Valkyrie was being Valkyrie. From number 6 to number 1, it's going to be very hard for me to pick my personal favorite just because all of these movies are good to great, but let's start with Boy. Boy is a very grounded movie that kind of highlights what I've always loved about Taika Waititi's movies, where they always start off as energetic and quirky and stuff, but they slowly unpeel the kind of darker side of the world that Taika Waititi is directing or writing. Also, Taika Waititi and the rest of the cast who's in this movie as well are pretty great, and honestly, this is just a solid movie. If you haven't seen Boy, you should probably see it. It won't be a waste of your time. This is Taika Waititi's first full-length movie, and it's a really good way to start off a directing career, if you ask me. It's a movie that's mostly about a relationship that is at first supposed to be like a sexual relationship, but the relationship kind of turns into something else by the end of it. The movie has a lot of interesting plot twists, and it's also a very, very funny movie, but it has a lot of messed up situations happen. Like any other director's first movie, this movie shows Taika's ability to paint these very unique characters that are off the wall and have a off sense of humor, but for Taika Waititi, it somehow manages to work in mostly all of his movies. I don't have much to say about this one, except that it's a top 10 MCU movie. What We Do in the Shadows was a great movie that at times actually felt like a real documentary instead of a mockumentary. Although the comedy for the most part didn't work for me, I could definitely see why most people enjoyed it, but I personally enjoyed it just because I was very invested to the story that Taika Waititi was providing. Do I think What We Do in the Shadows is one of the greatest comedies of the 2010s? Maybe, maybe not, but I really did enjoy this story, though the runtime can sometimes be a bit too slow for me. Hunt for the Wilder People, in my opinion, is probably Taika Waititi's most underrated movie. For some reason, when we hear about Taika Waititi's best movies, Hunt for the Wilder People is never really mentioned. Obviously, What We Do in the Shadows is mentioned, Jojo Rabbit is mentioned, Ragnarok maybe, but Hunt for the Wilder People is just never talked about, and I think it should be. The movie's got a lot of heart. It's pretty funny. It has a heartwarming story. The two main characters are great together, and the side characters in this movie are comedic gold together. And overall, the first half of this movie is kind of setting up these two's relationship so that when they do go into the woods, you really do care about how it's going to end, while also having these two cops and pretty much everyone in that country or city trying to find these people. And if you haven't seen Hunt for the Wilder People, stop whatever you're doing and watch it. I don't have much to say about this movie, but this is Taika Waititi's best movie in my opinion, it's obviously Taika Waititi's most well-received movie. I think that this movie is very heartfelt, and I know a lot of people, or maybe some people, had some controversies about the movie during that period of time, but at its core, Jojo Rabbit is a heartfelt story that's really an anti-war movie. And this is probably one of the Taika Waititi movies that doesn't have that much comedy in it. Don't get me wrong, there's still some funny moments in this movie, but there's not as many due to the subject matter that this movie has to deal with. Scarlett Johansson was amazing in this movie, and if she didn't get nominated for a Best Actress, she should have. And if she did, she deserved it. Also, Taika Waititi playing Hitler, honestly, for what the movie is about, since this Hitler character is in the boy's imagination, I think Taika Waititi played that very well. The two main leads of our story are both very good. The young Jewish girl who's in the Scarlett Johansson's house, and the main boy in this movie as well. But the main reason for this being my favorite Taika Waititi movie is because of Taika's always done a good job of weaving between genres, where sometimes a movie is a comedy, sometimes a movie is very dramatic, sometimes a movie is a romantic comedy. But I think there was a certain scene in this movie that felt straight out of a horror movie, and that was directed very well and edited very well. So that's my list. That's my favorite Taika Waititi movies. Do you like my list? Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree with it? Let me know in the comments. And those are my thoughts on that.